Good morning, Northland. Thank you for joining us on this Monday, January 20th. Here are just some of the top stories we're talking about. With these frigid cold temperatures we're seeing today, frostbite can set in faster than you think, especially in kids. The warning signs to watch out for and stay safe in the cold.
And with that, if you're going outside today, get ready to layer up. I'm tracking just how long the low temperatures will drop and when we can expect to see some relief from this Arctic blast.
Today is Inauguration Day. President-elect Donald Trump says he'll partake in more than 200 executive actions today on the first day back in office. We have more on what some of those entail. All those stories and more coming up.
Good Morning Northland starts now.
We start this morning with a look at just how dangerously cold the wind chill temperatures are today. As you can see behind me, this feels like temperatures outside are well in the 20s to even 40s below zero this morning. For more on just how cold things are going to be getting, let's check in with meteorologist Leah Zamarco for the details. Leah, how cold are we thinking this morning?
Oh, well, this is just the start of it. We will be staying in that negative 30 to negative 40 degree range of wind chills. The air temperature will be staying below zero, but it's really that wind chill that's going to be that driving factor. So yeah. highly recommend the hot cocoa and, hunkering down.
Yes.
Anything to keep you warm inside and out. And I think it will pass by Wednesday. Yep. So we just have 2 chilly days to really get through until we see that improvement. But
hang it in.
Yeah, in there. Exactly. Hang in there. And I think the main limiting factor is how many layers can you fit under your big winter coat. That's what you got to strategically plan for if you do make your way outside.
I love how many layers you have to put on just for the 5-second walk to the car because it's needed still.
Mm-hmm. It'll get you right as soon as you open the door. But as we take a look at those wind chills, we can really see where it's widespread for everybody. And everyone is in on this extreme cold warning. As you can see, the warning is in effect for everybody in the area, and that's staying in place until noon on Tuesday. We're going to continue to be monitoring it here on WDIO to make sure you are staying safe in these cold conditions. But as you do look outside, not only is your window probably going to start to fog up, but you will be seeing some pretty clear skies across northern Minnesota. Just some scattered cloud coverage as we do have this high pressure in place for a little bit longer, but we are seeing some clouds developing and congregating over the Mayfield Peninsula as we do see some chances for that lake effect snow to be continuing through Wednesday morning, as we are going to be expecting some precipitation in that direction. Winds right now are continuing to come from the northwest, and they are starting to build in with some momentum. Around 8-mile-per-hour winds here in Duluth across Grand Rapids, getting into those low teens over by Baudette and Big Fork, but still seeing some light winds, but they will be making their way around 15 miles per hour by the afternoon. Temperatures staying below zero between negative 22, just about negative 11. Our high for today is negative 10 degrees. So that's where we will see those temperatures top off at. So we will be staying much cooler across the rest of the region. Seeing those wind chills in that negative 30 to negative 40 degree range. And as we move into the next 3 days, cold air continues for Tuesday, but we're getting into some positive numbers for Wednesday. So clouds will be coming in and that southwest flow will really be helping us out.
Yes, and that wind chill is no joke, Leah. And with these dangerously cold temperatures coming, many events and services in the Northland have been canceled. Today, Senior Connections Meals on Wheels in Superior will not be providing any meals or transportation. The 2025 MLK Holiday March at the Deck has also been canceled. And tomorrow, the Inger and South Lake Mobile Pantry program has been canceled as well. The Second Harvest Food Shelf drive-through distribution has also been canceled, and both Spirit Mountain and Chester Bowl will be closed as well. There's also a good amount of school cancellations today, and that's scrolling on your screen right now. The full list of school closures, cancellations, and reschedulings can be found on our website, WDIO.com. Now, in these frigid temps, it doesn't take very long for you to get frostbite. And the best way to beat the cold and keep warm is by staying inside as much as you can. Now, if you do have to head out, you know the drill. Be sure to dress in layers. And with this in mind, it's still really important you know the warning signs of frostbite, which in these temperatures can happen very quickly, especially in kids. Jay Coles has more on what you need to look for.
It's the coldest part of the coldest month of the year, We like to call it January, or something with a few choice words, perhaps. But the folks out on Lake Harriet Sunday braved the frigid temps, dressing in layers with minimal skin exposure.
They get going fast.
And with the kids home for the long holiday weekend, they'll likely want to head outside as well, to the skating rinks, ski slopes, and sledding hills.
Kids can get frostbite in as little as 20 to 30 minutes in this cold weather, especially with the wind and the snow.
Pediatrician Liz Plachik says with kids, it's best to look at what you're wearing and then add one extra layer to that for them, depending on comfort level.
It can be safe to outdoor play, but I would really limit the time spent outside. So scheduling breaks, if they go outside maybe 10 minutes, and then bringing them in to warm up and checking to make sure that their layers are still nice and dry and on their bodies.
And know what the onset of frostbite looks like and feels like.
That's the red nose, the kind of numb or tingling sensation you might get on your cheeks or your fingers if you're outside for too long. That's actually the first signs of frost injury or cold injury.
And if it happens, get the kids inside quickly.
And then generally we recommend using either body heat or water that's around body heat, about 100 degrees, to start to rewarm those areas really slowly. We don't want to do anything hotter than that because that can cause further injury or actually burns to the area.
Jay Coles with the story. And some additional tips for you. Xcel Energy says you should also put protective strips down at the base of any doors leading to outside. And keep the shades up during the day to allow any sunlight that's available to come into the house. Now, if you're feeling the effects of the dropping temperatures, there's a good chance your pets are too.
Once the temperature hits 20 degrees or less, then you have to start worrying about the same things humans can encounter, which is frostbite, hypothermia.
Julie Castle, CEO of Best Friends Animal Society, says one way to help your furry friends combat the cold is to get them their own jacket. Booties can also help protect them from both the cold and chemicals used on the streets and sidewalks to melt the snow. And even if you don't have a pet of your own, you should be on the lookout for any stray animals looking for a warm hiding place. Under your car hood or inside your dryer vent are popular places for them to hide. Happening today, Donald Trump becomes the President of the United States for a second time. Trump taking the oath of office at 11 o'clock our time inside the Capitol Rotunda. At a rally last night, he outlined the goal of his administration. ABC's Perry Rossum on the Capitol Hill with the latest.
ABC News has learned President-elect Trump is preparing to take more than 200 executive actions on his first day back in office.
I will act with historic speed and strength and fix every single crisis facing our country.
Immigration is a top priority for Trump. He is expected to declare a national emergency on the U.S.-Mexico border, order troops to build more infrastructure along the border, and relaunch his Remain in Mexico policy for migrants. Federal agents were expected to plan and carry out mass deportations in Chicago and other sanctuary cities, targeting high-priority criminal targets that DHS teams have been investigating for months.
So when ICE goes out, they're going to know exactly who they're looking for.
But now when and where those possible deportation rates could take place is reportedly being reconsidered after initial details were leaked.
By the time the sun sets tomorrow evening, the invasion of our borders will have come to a halt.
Trump is expected to issue executive orders that will roll back limits on offshore drilling, repeal rules on electric vehicles, and rescind DEI and gender-related directives from the Biden administration. Trump also pledging to pardon some of the rioters who were at the Capitol on January 6, 2021. Trump returns to the Capitol today, taking the oath of office indoors because of the bitter cold. About 600 invited guests are expected to attend. Nearly 8,000 National Guard troops from 40 states are protecting the events. The Secret Service tells ABC News there are no active direct threats to the inauguration ceremony. Before heading to the Capitol this morning, Trump and Biden will have tea in the White House. Biden will be at the inauguration today. Trump was not there 4 years ago when it was Biden's turn. Perry Rossum, ABC News, Capitol Hill.
You can watch the inauguration right here on WDIO. Coverage begins with a special edition of Good Morning America, followed by a long special report beginning at 8 o'clock, covering everything from Trump's visit to the Capitol to an executive order signing ceremony. The swearing-in ceremony is set for 11 our time. And with today being Inauguration Day and Martin Luther King Jr. Day, many businesses will be closed. This includes local, state, and federal government offices like the DMV, courts, post offices, and libraries. The stock market will also be closed, as well as most banks. Most grocery stores and retail outlets like Target, Costco, Walmart will be open, though you might want to check their hours for any changes. And there's still so much more ahead on Good Morning Northland this morning. This weekend held the 45th annual Northland Figure Skating Competition event. And with the event wrapping up, we sent our Ethan Sherman to catch the ending, so stay with us. Good morning, Northland. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday, February 6th. Here are just some of the top stories we're talking about. In response to tight budget cuts, the Duluth School District is implementing drastic changes to absorb a $5 million shortfall. What this means for teachers coming up.
And our overnight snow has started to slow down, but these road conditions will still impact your morning. I'm tracking those conditions and when our next chance for snow showers is coming our way.
Breaking news at the Minnesota Capitol this morning as a power standoff between House Republicans and Democrats has finally come to an end. We have the details of their agreement and all those stories and more coming up.
Good Morning Northland starts now.
We start with a live look at the Harbor Cam's Bayfront camera. While the snow we're getting in this morning might look pretty across the lake and the greenery, it's going to cause for a messy commute this morning. Now here is your first look at the road conditions across the Northland. Snow plows all throughout the region have been clearing out snow overnight, but you're still going to want to plan for a little extra time to stay safe as you're commuting to work or school this morning. For more on how much snowfall we got and what's still to come, let's bring in our meteorologist, Leah Zamerko.
Well, good morning, Sierra. It's been quite the busy day.
Yes.
We had National Weather Person's Day yesterday, and they were like, here's a storm for you.
Yeah,
perfect, just
a little
in time.
gift.
A little gift from us, from Mother Nature to you. Here we have a lot of snow coming through, and it's still wrapping up this morning. So as many of us are getting ready to head out the door, we want to make sure everyone gets where they need to go safely. Or if you don't have anywhere to go, we want to make sure you're staying safe inside and maybe getting ready and encouraging yourself to get out there and shovel, because we did get a good amount of precipitation, and that's not the end of it for this week. So we got a lot to break down, but starting with just how gorgeous this winter has been and what we are seeing, taking a look outside at our tower cam, we are seeing that snow that has fallen on the ice of the harbor, really reflecting all those lights at downtown Duluth, making it look very bright for this dark and early hour of 6 in the morning. We are seeing around 17 degrees on top of the hill, so it's not that bitter cold that we have been seeing the past few mornings, but instead we do see those teens and 20s across the area. But we're watching these snow flurries continue to cross the central regions of the Northland, making their way through St. Louis County, up the North Shore and South Shore throughout the early start of today. The majority of the snow has already cleared, but we still do see winter weather advisory in effect through this morning, and we are keeping an eye on it. A little bit more of those hazards are wider spread from our region, but we're not quite done with these flakes just yet. Here's another look at those temperatures. As you can see, they're already starting to drop as we make our way to the northwest quadrant of the region. Seeing these northwest winds really ramp up in around 20 miles an hour, with these winds starting to bring our temperatures down for us all. And as we go throughout today, it's going to be a breezy day. We're going to watch these winds ramp up to around 23 miles an hour from the west, bringing these temperatures down to single digits as that sun goes behind the horizon. And that is going to keep us ready for another cool stretch coming our way.
Yes, well, we're in for it with the snow coming in, Leah. We're getting all our winter gear and just embracing this. Well, this morning we're also getting a better understanding of what a $5 million in cuts will mean for Duluth schools. 41 people found out they're being displaced, which means they're being moved out of their current positions and will need to apply for a new one. Of the group, half are teachers, and this is part of the budget reduction process. The district is also eliminating the activities director positions at Denfeld and East. Instead, they plan to open up 2 assistant principal jobs, which will manage athletics. This surprised Duluth Federation of Teachers, and they have filed a grievance over it. Ethan Fisher reflects on the cuts.
It's interesting because in the past, and I've been in the district for 30 years, it always tends to be the lowest senior people that are impacted by this. We've got a number of folks that have been around a while that are being impacted by this, which is unusual. My hope is through attrition that, you know, as they displace people in these various positions, that other things are going to open up because of retirements, and then they can bid on those positions and try to move into them.
The district says the final numbers are still not in yet because they'll have other factors coming into play.
Throughout the spring, we look at enrollment, we look at what comes forward with state aid, we look at what are any changes that we have with other funding or retirements or resignations. All of those things factor in because quite often between now and the start of the next school year, we have a lot of other positions that open up. So we're hopeful that the number that are actually laid off in the end are very minimal.
Magus told us inflation and the failed referendum in the fall are major factors in the cuts. Other districts are facing a budget crunch as well. As Duluth continues to struggle with affordable housing, yesterday's grand opening of the Sky Ridge Flats apartments looks to help ease this issue. The building features 70 one-bedroom apartments for those 55 and up. It was built with affordability in mind, with units being capped at $800 a month, with utilities included. Mayor Roger Reinert says senior housing like this could help with shortage of single-family homes across our city.
As folks move into those units, they might be freeing up other housing within the community. A 55 and older couple finding a home here that then opens up a home somewhere else that right now families are desperately looking for, because this isn't the Duluth of a decade or 20 years ago. The jobs are there, the houses are not.
Some are already living in Sky Ridge Flats. About 12 people have moved in so far. Turning to breaking news at the Minnesota Capitol this morning, Republicans and Democrats have reached a deal to end the Minnesota House standoff. Formal details are expected this morning as both parties announced new conferences. DFLers haven't shown up once at the Capitol since the session began, but now a power sharing agreement has been worked out. Here's what we have learned through multiple sources at the Capitol. The deal keeps Representative Lisa DeMuth as Speaker through 2026. Republicans will also keep control of committees as long as they hold the majority. If the House returns to a tie following a special election, both parties will share leadership as co-chairs for each committee. The agreement also ensures Brad Tapke of Shakopee retains his seat without further GOP challenges. We're following this today and we'll give you the latest updates. In news around Minnesota, yesterday the bridge next to the Rapidan Dam in Blue Earth County was demolished. The next step is tearing out the century-old Rapidan Dam. Last June, historic flooding damaged the bridge and led to the partial failure of the dam. Previous estimates put the removal of the Rapidan Dam at more than $80 million. Governor Tim Walz has included $10 million for the dam in his bonding proposal. The rest will come from FEMA in the county. And there's still so much more ahead on Good Morning Northland this morning. With the snowy weather making its way through, animal shelters fill up to provide a safe haven for pets. Still, we'll have some positive news from Great Tales Animal Rescue, and we'll share it after the break. Good morning, Northland. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday, January 30th. Here are just some of the top stories we're talking about. We start with breaking news. An American Airlines plane with 64 people on board crashed mid-air with a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter over Washington last night. We have the latest as over 300 emergency personnel are working in the search and recovery efforts. The stalemate in the Minnesota House continues and the clock keeps ticking. Republicans turn up the heat on absent Democrats with a new website tracking their no-shows, when a resolution could be in sight. Then new faces, new duty. Yesterday, St. Louis County swore in several new deputies. Our William Lean brings us how the new members are ready to protect and serve. All those stories and more coming up.
Good Morning Northland starts now.
Good morning, Northland. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Sierra Ness.
And I'm Leah Zamurko, and it's a wonderful Thursday today. We'll get that sunshine, but many of us are already looking ahead to the weekend.
Yes.
Sierra, let them know where we're going.
Yes, we're going down to the cities for a hockey game, and I'm excited because I get to share some of my Minnesota Gopher gear with Leah.
I'm going to get the city's tour from Sierra. That's where she grew up. So we're going to have a little adventure and watch the Badgers and the Gophers go at it for men's hockey. But the big story will be how safely will we return. We're going to try and beat this snowstorm that's expected to come Saturday afternoon. So we'll let you know how our adventure goes on Monday and if we made it out. Made it up north, back where we need to be.
Well, we'll be here if we did. So,
but before we get to the snow, we are going to enjoy some sunshine. So taking a look out on some of our cameras, Grand Marais did get a little bit of a dusting overnight and through the early hours this morning, but now we are seeing those clearer conditions. But it's nice to see that snow on the roads, and it's really embracing the winter wonderland with their beautiful lights. But as we make our way down on Highway 61, seeing clear roads and conditions for your morning into harbors, as well as here at the head of the lake. So we are watching that snow move out over Lake Superior, bringing some more of a dusting to the UP and the rest of Michigan this morning. But we're going to be seeing these clear skies continue to be widespread. Sunshine is going to be abundant, and that is going to feel great for our Thursday afternoon. If you got anything going on outside later on today, it's going to be a little bit of a thaw, but right now these temperatures are still below 32 degrees. They're going to be on the rise, and we will be seeing some light winds coming in from the south. Getting into that, the light wind in just under 10 miles an hour throughout this morning. We'll start to see them ramp up and switch directions to this westerly flow by the afternoon, getting us to those upper 30s by the end of the day. So we'll really be thawing for the afternoon, and then we'll start to see those temperatures make their way back down overnight. With clear skies, these temperatures will easily be dropping, and then moving into the next 3 days, seeing some cooler air coming our way, snow starting up for Saturday, and that's going to continue through our Sunday. So a little bit of lake effect snow on Friday for the South Shore, and then widespread snowstorm by Saturday afternoon, and that's going to continue overnight for all of us. So we're getting ready for a winter wonderland this weekend.
We are. We're kicking into full gear for winter, Leah. We're ready for it. Well, we start our top stories this morning with the latest information on a breaking story where a passenger aircraft has crashed into the Potomac River near Reagan National Airport in Washington, D.C. last night. This is a live look at the ground shot of the Potomac River, where recovery efforts are underway at the scene. Here's what we know so far. The passenger flight departed from Wichita, Kansas with 60 passengers and 4 crew members on board when it collided with an Army helicopter. The U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter had 3 soldiers aboard who were on a training flight at the time. Fatalities had been confirmed, with several bodies being pulled from the Potomac River, averaging 24 feet deep. Nearly 300 responders are working through the dark and cold temperatures as they investigate into what exactly happened. Those temperatures are making an impact on the effort.
The water that we're operating in is about 8 feet deep. There is wind, there is pieces of ice out there, so it's just dangerous and hard to work in.
U.S. figure skating confirmed figure skaters and coaches were aboard the American Airlines flight. Reagan National Airport will be closed until at least 11 a.m. Eastern Time today. The Secretary of Transportation says the investigation into what happened launched immediately.
Department of Transportation and FAA's perspective, we are going to offer full support to those on the ground, to the mayor, but also to the NTSB, who is going to be conducting the investigation in this matter.
This is the first major commercial airline crash since 2009. We will continue to follow this story and bring you the latest developments as we get them. Now turning to the latest at the Minnesota State Capitol, where day after day the State House Secretary of State Steve Simon adjourns sessions after no Democrats show up, which denies a quorum of at least 68 House members. In an effort to increase pressure on Democrats to show up, the House Republican Campaign Committee created a website called DemsClockedOut.com. It highlights the number of days and hours Democrats have not shown up to the state capitol. And it highlights the fact that they're still getting paid. Now, despite the growing tension on Tuesday, DFL House Speaker designate Melissa Hortman seemed optimistic about reaching a power sharing agreement. Yet this seemed to have faded as no meeting was held yesterday and no new talks are scheduled. House Republicans are dead set on their message as they hold for an agreement.
People not showing up for work, taking a super secret swear-in session 2 days earlier is not helping with the trust and the ability to negotiate in good faith going forward. I am hopeful that we will be able to get to a result. We will end this session on time with a budget agreement, depending on whether or not Democrats ever do actually show up for work.
Today now marks day 16 of the stalemate. We should mention the governor has no power to compel the House to meet a quorum. Republican lawmakers are still moving ahead with their legislative goals. Yesterday, they unveiled their public safety plan.
This plan is about putting victims and their families first. It's about giving law enforcement the resources they need to keep their community safe.
Lawmakers say the focus of their plan is helping law enforcement keep violent offenders off the streets and holding the criminal justice system accountable. They're proposing increased penalty for certain crimes like blocking freeways, damaged pipelines, and assaulting a peace officer, also requiring legislative approval for sentencing charges. Now, despite the partisan divide, the drama in this year's legislative session, our Northland lawmakers say they still have northern Minnesota on their minds. Our Alex Zapp talked to some of them on their priorities for the session.
A split government in St. Paul has seen a rocky start to the 2025 legislative session. Despite this, lawmakers from the Northland are confident they can still deliver on some of the issues facing northern Minnesota.
For me, that means working on things like permitting reform for industries and projects in northern Minnesota. It means working on the helium deposit that we have in northern Minnesota and making sure that we get the tax collections from that to our local communities.
I've been working hard on children and family. We have a childcare shortage. It's a desert. We've lost over 50% of our family childcare providers. I've been working with some alliances and childcare providers. I've done task force meetings, had some meeting groups going on, and meeting with individual centers too to make sure that they have a viable pathway to keep the doors open.
Despite the difference in chamber and party, both Representatives Zalesnikar and Senator Hochschild say a big thing on the minds of many rural Minnesotans is emergency health care.
They want to make sure we have ambulance services across the state. I've been working hard on that, had meetings with the EMS today.
Last year, we did one-time aid for rural ambulance services. And this year, I'm going to be working on a long-term solution and having those conversations across the aisle to see if we might be able to create a stabilized grant that could go out to services to make sure that ambulances are available no matter your zip code.
It is a big issue. Rural Minnesota has an aging population with many relying on Medicare, which doesn't cover the full cost of ambulance services.
The tax dollars are getting harder and harder to allocate.
Michael Juntman is the president of the Minnesota Ambulance Association, speaking here in a roundtable about EMS.
The governmental reimbursement is definitely the lowest reimbursement we get, and it is lower than the cost it takes for us to perform those services. Now, when we get out into the rural areas of the state, more specifically, those services are generally subsidized by a municipality. And so that model is becoming more difficult as the cost to run that ambulance is growing every year.
In 2024, both Zalesnikar and Hochschild traveled to Washington to advocate for EMS reform at a federal level. Back in St. Paul, they both say they're continuing to work for the Northland. For WDIO, I'm Alex Sapp.
There's still so much more ahead on Good Morning Northland, and a local campaign is taking a hard look at the criminal justice system and its role in mass incarceration, how they are looking to change perspectives after the break.
Good morning, Northland. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday, October 9th. Here are just some of the top stories we're talking about this half hour. We're following the developing story in Florida, where Hurricane Milton is expected to make landfall tonight. Where the hurricane stands, as many are forced to evacuate. The news of Milton vastly approaching towards that region comes on the heels of those still recovering from Hurricane Helene. Find out how Northlanders are making a direct impact in the recovery efforts. Then in some lighter news, the story of success for one Duluth mother who gave birth to 2 beautiful twins following a complicated surgery. Find out how these girls will steal your heart. All those stories and more coming up.
Good Morning Northland starts now.
Good morning, Northland. It is 6 o'clock now here in the studio. Thanks for being here with us. I'm Naya Adams.
I'm Leah Zamarco. Hope you're having a great start to your morning if you're just joining us.
Yes, for sure. Hope you're having a really great cup of coffee or tea, whatever you prefer. I know I'm not a coffee drinker, so I have my tea here.
Yep. I have it off by the weather center, but we've been having these gorgeous mornings with beautiful sunrises, and it's a little bit unfortunate now that we're getting into winter and the darker parts of the year. We're not seeing them right in time, but we do get some beautiful pictures sent in, so have to share those with all of you as we do see these gorgeous sunrises over Island Lake. So thank you, John, for sending this in. It just helps brighten up the morning as we're getting ready for that sun to come up in the next hour or so, but we can see that gorgeous sun reflecting over on the water. And here's another look at those bright fall days we've been having here. We're in this dry stretch, but it's been truly enjoyable to see all those leaves, especially over on Gordon Dam. You can see those leaves reflected out in the water. Thank you, Jan, for sending this in as well. And as we take a look at where we're at right now, we're in those low 40s here at the top of the hill, starting to see a little bit of glimmer of light on the horizon, but it's still relatively dark across the region. And down at our harbor cam, it's around 52 degrees, and we're waiting for some more sunshine to come out for our day part. Clear skies across the region as we're seeing those clouds continue to move out over Lake Superior. And temperatures, we're seeing a lot of those mid-30s across the region. We're still waiting to really warm up, but a couple upper 20s in parts of northern Minnesota and the Iron Range. Waiting for some more sunshine to get us out of these cooler conditions that we're starting our day with. As we go throughout today, we'll be seeing a lot more sunshine. Winds coming in from the east at 5 to 10 miles per hour. And we'll be getting into those upper 50s and low to mid 60s by the end of the day before temperatures start to drop overnight. Tomorrow we'll be seeing that last day of this warm up where we'll get into those low 70s across the region with winds coming in from the south at 5 to 10 miles per hour. And as we go into Friday, then we're going to really drop back off and see some more cooler air continue for the rest of the weekend and into next week. So those 50s will be here before we know it, and we'll be seeing a lot more chillier air our way.
That's good. Thanks, Leah. Starting our top stories this morning now, several Northlanders with the Red Cross are getting ready to answer the call for help and travel down to Florida as they lend a hand in Hurricane Milton preparations. This is the second time now in just 2 weeks the American Red Cross has been mobilizing its disaster response crews. 92 people from our region have already been deployed and more are expected in the coming days. Now, Milton's expected arrival later tonight comes as people are still recovering from the catastrophic Hurricane Helene. Now, community members in Duluth are helping out in the recovery efforts, providing donations and supplies for disaster relief. Our William Lean went to East Ridge Community Church to find out how people there are lending a hand.
So we're going to be gathering up until October 20th, and so about 13 days because they need it fast.
Hurricane Helene traveled 500 miles inland from the Florida coast, causing billions of dollars in damages and claiming the lives of over 230 people. For the past few days, congregation members at East Ridge Community Church in Duluth have set up several drop-off locations where people can donate to help with disaster relief. Senior Pastor Tom Asbury says the damages caused by the Category 4 hurricane hits close to home.
Yeah, actually, I'm from that area. My family's in southern West Virginia, and so it was a bit personal watching it because had that storm shifted a little bit northeast, it would have impacted my family. I used to have meetings down there every year in Black Mountain and Montreat, and it's an area that I love, but I also know that family members here in this church love it as well. And so when we saw that happening, it was devastating to watch, but it's also a bit personal.
The rebuilding is expected to take months, if not years, according to experts. Justin Hubrechts, an associate pastor at East Ridge Community Church, says in the past he's visited the remote areas in the Appalachian region. He says many rural communities desperately need donations because of how far away they are from disaster relief.
I've been to that area before. I know how rural it can get, and that those the mountains that are up there are really hard to get to. So we're hoping that getting some of these goods there will not only serve the people that need to get them in the rural areas, but the people that are also serving there.
People have already donated some supplies like water, clothes, blankets, and other essential items. but there's still a need for other things like baby formula, diapers, and first aid kits. Eastridge Community Church is asking other businesses and churches to help, whether it's donating, having drop-off sites, or just getting the word out.
We're accepting donations from every church, from every organization. We want everyone to be a part of it. We just happen to be the site where it's at. So we can do a lot of things just for being centrally located here.
For WDIO News, I'm William Lee.
Other items needed for people impacted by the hurricanes are non-perishable food, cleaning supplies, and winter jackets. We have the list of other items that people need on our website. Now, another way that you can help make a direct impact to those in need is by giving blood or platelets. Hurricanes cancel blood drives, and that means donations go uncollected. Plus, now through the end of October, the Red Cross is offering $10 gift cards to folks who donate blood. We now go to our storm track radar for a look at where Hurricane Milton currently stands. It's approaching the west coast of Florida as a Category 5 storm. While it's expected to weaken a bit before making landfall later tonight, it still carries the potential for catastrophe as millions are under evacuation orders. Now, major destruction is expected with high winds and potentially record-breaking storm surge. Many have already started to head south to help prepare for the storm, including the Minnesota National Guard. We now go to ABC's Rena Roy, who has the latest from Tampa.
This morning, time is running out to prepare for historic Hurricane Milton as the monster storm closes in on Florida.
This is destructive, life-threatening storm surge, not a safe environment to stay in. So if you are in one of those storm surge evacuation zones along the west coast of Florida, please heed that evacuation advice.
Milton expected to make landfall late tonight as a Category 3 or 4 hurricane, bringing up to 18 inches of rain and a record storm surge of up to 15 feet in the Tampa Bay area. It has the potential to be one of the most destructive hurricanes on record for the state of Florida.
Sarasota County has issued an evacuation for your area.
Authorities driving through coastal neighborhoods warning people to leave while they still can, and if not, prepare for the worst.
Write your name on your arm so we can identify you. We're all talking the same way. Get out of these areas because we can replace your home. We can't replace your life.
Airlines added thousands of seats, allowing more people to get out.
The rain and the wind and all that, and I said I have to go.
Hurricane hunters flying directly into Milton to gather data, their plane jerking around in extreme turbulence. The governor says the National Guard storm mobilization is likely the largest in state history, with thousands of troops activated. 34 search and rescue planes are on standby, and 37,000 linemen are either in Florida or on the way to help with power outages. One major concern, coastal areas still filled with piles of debris from Hurricane Helene, despite frantic cleanup efforts in recent days. In some areas, a desperate struggle to find gas. More than 30% of gas stations have already run dry in the Fort Myers-Naples area.
It's been I would say, a tremendous task to get gas.
And some areas, including Charlotte County south of Tampa, are now extending evacuation orders further inland because of storm surge concerns. Rena Roy, ABC News, Tampa, Florida.
And this morning, MSP is reporting at least 25 canceled flights going to and from Florida this morning. Majority of those cancellations are for Orlando and Fort Myers, as both airports shut down today to prepare for Hurricane Milton. We'll continue to follow this story during our evening newscasts. Now, moving back to the Northland, we're continuing to cover the local issues for voters as we head into next month's election. This includes the Superior Schools operational referendum. Superior voters will decide on a property tax increase in November to fund operational costs over 5 years. District officials say this is their first request for such a referendum, saying state funding is not keeping up with inflation. While the district has made cuts for several years in order to maintain a balanced budget, they say without the referendum, officials say more budget cuts may be necessary. Now the district is holding several community meetings before Election Day. The next will be at the Superior Public Library on October 10th at 5:30 p.m. We have more information about this on our website. Still ahead on Good Morning Northland, a set of twins in Duluth are doing well 6 months after being taken home. Doctors weren't sure if they were going to make it, but they did, and we're so happy to hear that. Stick around, we'll have that full story for you next.
Good morning, Northland. Thank you for joining us on this Friday, December 6th. Here is a glimpse into what we're talking about. This morning, we are continuing our Have a Heart, Help a Neighbor campaign. We're helping raise money all morning long for Second Harvest Northland as they help those in need get food all holiday season long. The full details on how you can help make an impact starts now.
Good Morning Northland starts now.
Good morning, Northland. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Sierra Nest, and yes, it is a very special morning here for our studios and our community. We're helping raise both food and monetary donations for Second Harvest Northland, as many here around our area continue to feel effects of rising food costs due to inflation. We want to help those in need this holiday season and relieve the stress of worrying about food. The donations made today will have a direct impact to our community as we get closer to the holidays. Now we have a special live team coverage this morning at a couple spots throughout the Northland as volunteers accept food donations such as canned goods and pre-packaged foods throughout the morning. Our Sabrina Ullman is live at the Second Harvest Northland Distribution Center in Grand Rapids, and our Leah Zamerko is live at Super One over at Miller Hill. We will be live from now until 7 a.m. this morning, but now let's toss things over to Leah for our weather this morning.
Well, good morning, Northland. I am outside over at Super One on top of the hill, and as we take a look at our temperatures, we are sitting in those teens, but this wind coming in from the northwest, which we are having a car block for me, is coming in, and it's keeping things a little bit chilly. As we take a look over at the bridge, it is a beautiful morning as we can see these clouds that are continuing to fall just overhead, and as we continue to go in with the look at our temperatures, we will be seeing that we're going to be in those just around 10 degrees on top of the hill and throughout most of northern Minnesota. Sorry about that. We had to point the clicker in the right place. Here is those winds coming from the northwest, just around 15 miles an hour along the north shore. And as we take a look at the wind chill, here's what it feels like. It feels like 1 degree here in Duluth, where I am standing. Further to our north, we're getting just around 10 degrees, and that's continuing over to the north shore where this lake effect precipitation will be moving through. Here is a look at our Friday. Temperatures will be on the rise. We'll be seeing those mid-20s by this afternoon. Some good chances for some sunshine later on today as these winds die down just around 5 miles an hour for the evening. And as we look at our weekend, what a warm up we'll be having. So this time tomorrow will be completely different as temperatures will be getting into those upper 30s on Saturday. We'll see some clouds in the morning, sun later on, and then we will be seeing some mixed precipitation coming our way Sunday. So more winter in store coming up next.
Thank you, Leah. Now, volunteers will be at these locations throughout our show this morning, accepting your non-perishable food donations. This includes Second Harvest Northland West Distribution Facility in Grand Rapids and the Miller Hill, Harborview, and West Duluth Super One stores. If you can't make it to these locations, you can also donate on our website. One other way you can make a donation this morning is by calling to our phone banks. We have lovely volunteers from UWS accepting your calls for monetary donations to Second Northland as well. The number is on your screen for you to dial, and that's 1-877-949-0383. Every little bit helps. Now, this is the 21st year of Have a Heart, Help a Neighbor, but it's the first since the historic merger between what used to be two separate food banks, Second Harvest Northland Lakes and Second Harvest North Central. Sabrina Ullman joins us live from the Grand Rapids Distribution Center with another reminder about why food donations are needed.
Sierra, the Second Harvest Northland is the region's largest hunger relief organization. Your support helps children, families, and seniors that are in need.
We'll jump in the line over there. Have a great day.
We probably reach about 70,000 food insecure individuals each year in our region.
Hunger is a complex issue that impacts many in the Northland. As the region's only food bank, Second Harvest is here to help.
We exist to access and distribute nationally and regionally donated product and purchased product to nonprofit agencies in our 15 county region. So as many as 60 food shelves and about 300 other programs access their food from Second Harvest Northland.
Second Harvest Northland formed on January 1st, merging the North Central and Northern Lakes food banks.
We serve agencies and people from International Falls down to Princeton, Minnesota, and from Brainerd all the way over to Hurley, Wisconsin. So about a 27,000 square mile service area.
Within the 15 county region, food insecurity is a real issue.
We have a higher rate of food insecurity in all 15 counties amongst our general population and our population of children when you compare that to Minnesota and Wisconsin state averages. So a high level of need.
And that already high need has been increasing.
Oh, that's awesome. What's the first name?
Last week at our own food shelf here at Second Harvest Northland, we had a record day of distribution. We served 544 households in one day. We're seeing that need increase in our region, just amongst all of our 60 area food shelves, more children and about 15% more seniors this year. So it's really important that people give.
One way to give is by participating in Have a Heart, Help a Neighbor.
Thank you so much.
The biggest thing we can do is raise awareness of the issue and make people understand that it's our neighbors. It's people like you and I that need support. So if we are all neighbors helping neighbors, we come together on this great day to raise awareness and also funds so that we can provide that important nutrition to families, children, and seniors in our region.
Anyone can donate by stopping by Second Harvest locations or on Have a Heart Day at your local Super One.
It's always so heartwarming to see people come out in the freezing cold, practically in the middle of the night, to give food or financial donations, and really, those nice messages they say, like, we want to help kids, or we love the work that you do. It's really heartwarming and just a great testament to the people in our region.
Donations can be food or financial.
So for $1 donated to Second Harvest Northland, we can stretch it to about $7 worth of food. We do that because we're accessing mostly donated products, so from our local retailers, from national sources. We don't pay for the food, we only pay for transportation, storage, and handling of that product.
But if you can't contribute now, know that donations are always needed.
Correct. Oftentimes people think of charitable organizations like ours at the holidays. There is no specific time of year that there's the greatest need. Holidays, of course, and the winter heating season up here, that really does have an impact, but people need our support all year long.
And again, I will be here at the Grand Rapids Distribution Center until 7 a.m. There is a box outside to donate. If you swing by, be sure to say hi. I'll be here till 7. And if you missed that window, you have until 4 p.m. today to donate and help those in need. Sierra?
That's right. Thank you, Sabrina. There's still much more ahead here on Good Morning Northland. Our Have a Heart, Help a Neighbor campaign continues. Up next, Leah will be chatting with Patrick Miner at the Miller Hill Super One to learn more about how they play an integral role in Second Harvest Northland's operations. We'll be right back. Good morning, Northland. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday, January 29th. Here are just some of the top stories we're talking about. Minnesota is now one of the 22 states suing the Trump administration over a now temporarily blocked funding freeze executive action, what lawmakers are saying, and how this could directly impact millions of Americans. Then we're breaking down a new housing report just out for the state of Minnesota, what experts are saying, and advice you need to know as the state sees a tough market. And new this morning, we're breaking down the nation's report card, which shows students are still struggling in key academic areas, the statistics and the messages for parents. All those stories and more coming up.
Good Morning Northland starts now.
Good morning, Northland. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Sierra Ness.
And I'm Leah Zamerko. Happy Wednesday morning. And Sierra, that word report card sent a shiver down my spine. It's only been short of a year since I got my last one, but still, that does bring back some stress from high school, elementary school, and everything in between. But what was your favorite subject, or what were you most worried about when the report card circle came around?
I was the most worried about math, but I was really good at reading and Reading and history were my favorite. How about you?
I was a big science fan. I love science class as well as history. Math, I'm sure my dad has some more flashbacks from doing negative numbers with me.
Crying at the kitchen counter.
It's a canon event that everyone goes through, but we've gotten pretty good at it. We made our way through the calculus, but that does send a little bit of a shiver and a nervous.
Yeah, I never have to do calculus ever again. That was where it needed to be done in high school.
Well, as afraid of negative numbers I am, we aren't seeing any today. So that is something really fun to wake up to as we take a look outside. We are seeing those double digits for many of us from Hibbing all the way out to Hayward. So we do see some cool spots at the tip of the arrowhead. We still are seeing that temperature gradient as we are going through these evenings with some cooler air coming in with this northwest wind. But we are going to be staying pretty high and dry for today. We're seeing a little bit of a mild moment for the Northland. Clouds continuing to break apart, and we will see a few flurries wrapping up. Over the next few days, we will expect a little bit of snow across the Arrowhead and the South Shore, but again, accumulation will be remaining light, and that's just as we see these clippers from Canada start to dip a little bit into a southerly flow. But we're going to be starting out in those teens here along the North Shore, seeing those single digits further to our north, 20s as we make our way to the South Shore and further inland to central portions of Minnesota. As we take a look at these winds, still seeing those breezy conditions being a driver of our weather. Northwest winds coming in around 8 to 15 miles an hour this morning. They'll start to elevate as we continue throughout the afternoon, seeing those gusts around 25 miles per hour throughout the rest of the Arrowhead this morning. And as we go through today's planner, we're going to see temperatures still on the rise, getting to those mid-20s by this afternoon. Dry skies with those mostly cloudy conditions, and we're going to keep an eye on these winds as we move through this week.
Thank you, Leah. Well, starting our top stories this morning, all 50 states, including Minnesota, are figuring out their next steps after a move by the Trump administration was blocked by a federal judge yesterday, just minutes before it was supposed to take effect. This stems from an executive order President Trump signed, looking to freeze government funding. The action is now on pause until at least Monday. Under the freeze, departments were to cease spending of any financial assistance programs and go under review for any potential conflicts with Trump's other executive orders. Minnesota is one of the 22 states filing a lawsuit over the Trump administration's action.
This is a violation of the rule of law. It's violation of the constitutional function of the federal government. It takes away programs people rely on, that their representatives have voted for and passed.
Still, the Trump administration says reviewing where and how federal funds are applied is the best interest of the American people. The sudden announcement of this, now temporarily halting executive action, is creating chaos and confusion throughout local communities and state governments, as many look to understand how this will impact millions of Americans. This morning, many organizations are still requesting clarification into what this means. ABC's Nicole D'Antonio is in Washington with more.
This morning, a federal judge has temporarily blocked the Trump administration's order to freeze billions in federal funding, even as it sowed chaos throughout the country and left many organizations scrambling for clarification.
Donald Trump's reckless action cut off funding to law enforcement, farmers, schools, child care, veterans, and health care. While he was out golfing, he threw the country into crisis. It's stupid, buffoonish, childish.
Federal grants and loans reach into virtually every corner of Americans' lives, with hundreds of billions of dollars flowing into education, healthcare, disaster relief, infrastructure, and a host of other initiatives. The judge saying, quote, "It seems like the federal government currently doesn't actually know the full scope of the programs that are going to be subject to the pause." The White House defended the funding freeze, saying it's needed to make sure programs don't run counter to President Trump's agenda.
It means no more funding for illegal DEI programs. It means no more funding for transgenderism and wokeness across our federal bureaucracy and agencies.
22 states and the District of Columbia are now suing the Trump administration over the funding freeze. White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy Stephen Miller clarifying the freeze is temporary and any Americans who receive benefits will not be impacted.
Donald Trump and his administration have not earned the benefit of the doubt. They are either lying to us or they are critically incompetent.
It comes as the Trump administration offers financial incentives for federal workers to quit as the president works to shrink, purge, and remake the federal government.
The American people voted for dramatic change implemented by Donald Trump.
Some federal employees are exempt from the buyout, including military personnel, postal staff, and immigration officials. Nicole D'Antonio, ABC News, Washington.
Moving back to the Northland, we're taking a quick look at stories making local headlines. Stephanie Beto of Aurora faces arson and assault charges after admitting to starting a fire at the Iron Gate apartments and townhomes on Friday. The criminal complaint says she was suspected of being under the influence when this happened, and she was taken to the hospital where she allegedly kicked a staff member. A document shows officers found a baggie of fentanyl later on her at the jail. Now, residents in Silver Bay can now take a sigh of relief as water operations are now back to normal. A boil water advisory was in place yesterday, but has since been lifted after test results were completed. Multiple water main breaks forced Lake County officials to call a temporary water emergency for several days. Meanwhile, elementary students in Keewatin are heading back to the classroom this morning after 2 days of canceled school due to water damage from a pipe failure. The district thanks all of the families with their patience while they figured things out. Now, new this morning, students here in the U.S. are falling further behind on test scores. This is according to the country's latest report card, the National Assessment of Education process. It shows 4th and 8th grade students have experienced a decline in math and reading performances since the pandemic. Now, comparing this to 2019 average scores for reading and are down by 5 points. In math, 4th graders are down 3% and 8th graders slid down about 8%.
It's a call to action as parents and families to hold our districts and our school systems accountable for making sure that we get our kids back on track.
Another big issue is that students aren't showing up for classes. 12% of 8th graders reported missing at least 5 days of the school per month. And there's still so much more ahead on Good Morning Northland this morning. It's been a challenging year for the housing market, especially for first-time buyers. When we return, Richard Reeve breaks down the annual Realtors Report and what this means for you. Stay with us.